President Trump is ramping up pressure on his campaign to acquire Greenland. He plans to impose 10% tariffs on NATO allies who've sent military forces into Greenland. Fresh CBS News polling shows most Americans are not on board with that.
Big number of Americans, more than 8 in 10, say they would disapprove of the U.S. using military force to try to take control of Greenland. Now, you don't get that big of a number without bipartisan support or feeling the same way, and this is how those parties break down. Majorities of Republicans and Democrats and independents would all disapprove.
CBS News White House reporter Willie James Inman is traveling with the president and joins us live now from West Palm Beach in Florida. Good morning, Willie. Tell us about the response to the president's tariffs.
Hey there, Errol. Good morning to you. Well, there has been a range of responses, mostly pushing back against the president's bid to acquire Greenland by any means necessary. Remember, the president said that he could acquire Greenland the easy way or the hard way being by using a military force to acquire the Arctic territory, which is under the control of Denmark. We, of course, know Denmark is a NATO ally, so this would certainly upend the situation with NATO, so many members are concerned there. But there has been some bipartisan pushback against this. You mentioned that polling. The Americans essentially say they don't want federal dollars being used. So 70% of them say they don't want those federal dollars being used to purchase Greenland. But lawmakers are pushing back against this as well. Listen.
I think certainly Greenland and the Greenlanders need to decide their future and their outcome.
There is no current security threat from Russia or China to Greenland. The only security threat to Greenland right now is the United States.
Now, remember, the president essentially says that the U.S. needs Greenland because of national security concerns. In large part, he says, because if the U.S. doesn't take Greenland, that somehow Russia or China will take the Arctic island, which, of course, is a really an important, vital island, the president says, because of those critical minerals, but also because the U.S. wants to be able to construct the so-called Golden Dome that the president has talked about. Now, the president is expected to head to Davos, Switzerland this week for the World Economic Forum, and certainly this topic about Greenland will come up with those world leaders if he sees them there in Switzerland. Errol?
Yeah, and we'll dig more into all of this right now. Willie, thank you very much. CBS News senior foreign correspondent Holly Williams making a rare appearance here in New York City right now. She's tracking the international response to these tariffs for us. Holly, great to see you and welcome.
Thanks for having me, Errol.
How is the Trump administration's pursuit of Greenland going over in Europe? We heard Willie James Inman hint at that, but bring it to us more in depth.
Yeah, Errol, I think that European leaders and European people are profoundly shocked by this. And I think there's even panic in some quarters. Remember, the countries that are being targeted here are some of America's closest allies. They are members of NATO. And that NATO alliance is really the cornerstone of the world order. It was set up by the United States in the ashes of World War II. Now, some of those countries obviously feel that they are being strong-armed by President Trump. This is not normal American diplomacy, and that's a kind of vast understatement. Denmark's Prime Minister said yesterday that Europe will not be blackmailed. Europe is clearly very much on the same page here. Now, do I think that the NATO alliance is about to crumble? I do not. Apart from anything else, European countries don't really have any alternatives. But what's happening erodes trust in the NATO alliance. And remember, these NATO member states are pledged to come to America's defence if America ever comes under attack. This is what the British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, had to say about this all earlier today.
Alliances endure because they're built on respect and partnership, not pressure. That is why I said the use of tariffs against allies is completely wrong.
So, bear in mind the British stiff upper lip. The British don't like hyperbole. They like to be understated. Those are very strong words. Earlier this morning, I was thinking, what would the comparison be here for the US? I don't know that there is a direct one, but just imagine 50 or 100 years from now, there's a much stronger China. And China said to the US, we want to buy Alaska. And you're going to have to sell it to us because we want better access to the Arctic. And if you don't sell it to us, then we're going to inflict economic pain on you.
So certainly a sense of alarm from European allies of the US. And I wonder what you make of the president's newest argument, because in a social media post late last night, the president claimed Denmark's been unable to do anything to get what he calls the Russian threat away from Greenland. Is there any truth to that, and are there real security concerns in the Arctic in general?
The president's been making the security argument for a while.
Yeah.
There are genuine security concerns in the Arctic. China is not really a major player, but around Russia, yes, there are security issues. And we've reported on this from inside the Arctic Circle. Russia is building more and more bases within the Arctic. They're carrying out exercises. There's Russian espionage happening. And Greenland is in a really key strategic location in between Russia and the US. But if that is President Trump's concern, he can beef up Arctic security. He can build more US bases. He can push America's NATO allies to build more military bases and carry out more exercises. He doesn't need to buy Greenland to do that. We were in Greenland last year and we were talking to a lot of people there, and some people said that they thought that really the issue here was that President Trump wants access to Greenland's vast, untapped mineral wealth. We, of course, don't know whether that's true.
Really interesting points. Holly Williams, so great. Such a treat to have you here. Phenomenal reporting out of Iraq last week, which we always appreciate. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.